Hello, everybody. Welcome to what realistically is the last one or two episodes with the title of Bitch Slap, the Accelerated Path to Peace. Realistically, over the next couple of days, the name change to Table Rush. To the Table Rush, what is it? To the Table Rush talk show and pitch session will be complete. Enjoy these couple remaining episodes under the moniker Bitch Slap. Love to all enjoy this episode. It's a busy day at the park as I walk and record with my Shure MV88 mic that all of you all should have who are fledgling podcasters and or YouTubers, because the little mic is awesome. Anyhow, today we're going to discuss the change of the podcast name. I was in a bit of a panic mode when I recorded on the last episode about the potential name change, so I'm going to talk about that today. Yes, so I am going to change the name of the podcast, it turns out. And I will change it to Table Rush Masterclass. Perhaps when you listen to this episode, the name will be changed. No, I'm not going to do that because I want to give everybody plenty of notice that the name is changing. So you know. And there's a lesson in all this, which I'm going to talk about right now. And I've been through it a few times as I have created the Bitch Slap podcast, as I've worked on becoming an Amazon affiliate and got kicked off as I was clawing and scratching to get my Apple, my original, Bitch Slap Accelerated Path to Peace podcast approved with Apple. There's a consistent theme in all this, and one is I will make assumptions about how I think things work, and I will take actions according to the assumption, or inactions according to that assumption, and blended in there as is I will see the rules and perhaps think they don't apply to me, as well as take some action based on not complete information, and have reactionary moments, which is normal for everybody. If you are above that or oblivious to that, I'm not sure if oblivious is the right word to use there, or immune to that, well, God bless you. And I will also say that it doesn't happen all the time. It's usually if there's a mission critical thing happening and I perhaps think a supposed mission critical thing. All this stuff in hindsight has not been mission critical. I think you get what I'm saying. It's in a perfect world, I would have these thought streams ironed out perfectly, so it was a cohesive, easy flowing, easy read of an episode. However, I was all excited originally to change the name of the podcast to Table Rush, and then I sort of panicked. Like, I was ready to let go of the Bitch Slap name, and I effectively moved on from it in my head. Although, as I've gotten traction with that with this podcast over the last 6 weeks. I was like, wait, what am I doing? But so had some reclaimed attachment to the original podcast name. That might be a good way to say it. So filler word. So I started looking into changing the podcast name, and there's RSS feeds and subdomains and all this stuff associated with a podcast and who hosts your podcast. And I overreacted and was like, I can't just change the name. Which is not true, actually. And so I sort of panicked and was like, well, I guess I'm going to keep the Bitch Slap Accelerated Path to Peace name and this and that, because I thought that the underlying subdomains or the domains would keep the original title in it, and the change of the title wouldn't filter down through the subdomains and domains and all this sort of stuff. And after the last episode I recorded, which I was like, no, I'm not changing the name. I was like, wait a minute, this can't be right. I've got to do a little bit of digging. I can't, it's not realistic. It's not seamless. It's not efficient. It's a diluted message to have the Table Rush Masterclass YouTube channel and then the original Bitch Slap Accelerated Path to Peace podcast name. Like the messages aren't necessarily as cohesive as they could be or as efficient as they could be. And so I was like, man, I might just have to give up the podcast altogether. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. Why don't I actually ask the question of the podcast people? Can I change the name and the branding of it? And will that filter down through the domains, subdomains, etc., and the RSS feed will be fine? And the answer was yes. And I was like, oh my goodness. I can change the podcast name. It can all be clean and easy and work together. And I recorded that last episode, the one right before this, or maybe 2 ago. Perhaps it's 2 ago, 1 or 2 ago, where I was like, I'm not changing the name after all. That is not true. Maybe I didn't even publish that episode as you listen to this. Just know that I had a panic moment and thought that I wasn't going to be able to change the name of it. So I think that's super funny. And it happened to me when Apple was giving me pushback about my podcast name. And I was like, oh my gosh, I might need to change the name to Godshot. I don't know. There's that whole series back 300 episodes ago when I was just getting started, but it was the same sort of a thing. I kind of spent time in reaction mode instead of time in find out how it actually works mode, right? So I just assumed the answer that would allow or justify the change from Bitch Slap to Godshot, when it was like, oh, I just needed to dig a little bit more, send the email to Apple customer service. And once I finally did that step, which I assumed it wouldn't work, literally, I was like, Apple won't respond to the customer service inquiry. They're too big of a corporation, so why bother? Why not start designing new logos to Godshot? Why not record new intros and outros? Why not do all this work? And so I did a good week or 10 days of work And finally I was like, maybe I should just send that email and see what happens. So I sent the email to Apple customer service, and they responded so quickly. They helped me work through the issue, and there was no problem. I just had basically a truncated version of the same experience just now, except it only took 2 days. And only one recorded episode where I put the brakes on the name change. But just know that the podcast name is changing. I'll be definitely talking about much of these business concepts, but still talking about spiritual stuff. How did I say it earlier as I was interviewing somebody and we were having some pre-conversation? I said, yeah, the name's changing, and effectively it's going to be how, our spirituality comes through in our entrepreneurship. I actually wrote it down. It was a great little quote. So that's what's happening. That's what's going on. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being on this amazing journey with me as I continue to grow and refine what I'm doing. And yes, have a good day. Thank you for spending time with me today. As someone who is committed to growth and service to this world, I so appreciate your willingness to come with me, go within, and serve our world through change. If you found value in this podcast and you know someone who can use this message, share this episode with them. Share it so our mission can be achieved one episode at a time. And of course, subscribe so you can hear more. And lastly, for more resources on what has helped me on my journey and can help you on yours, go to belove.media/resources. That's BELOVE.media/resources. Thank you again for listening.